Greetings, Junior Explorers, and welcome to another Deck Tech with me, Senior Explorer Extraordinaire Frodan. Today we're going to explore Priest as one of the classes from Journey to Un'Goro, which has gotten some of the most fun tools in this expansion. Today we're looking at Thijs's Purify Priest list, which in my opinion has a lot of meme potential. It is one lean, mean, memeing machine. Of course, everyone's gonna go ahead and focus on the card that the deck is named after, Purify, which is silence a friendly minion, draw a card. Now, for a recap for people who have only been playing Hearthstone for the past month or maybe 6 months, when Purify was first announced in the summer of 2016, people thought that it was a joke of a card. They actually outraged and rioted against Blizzard, saying, please change this card because it's just a waste of a spot. Priest was in a terrible spot on the power rankings of classes, and they felt like it was a waste of a card in such a small, limited card pool of the adventure. However, with Purify getting more and more playable cards, such as the newly released Humongous Razor Leaf, which can't attack, but if you silence it, can for 3 mana be 4/8 stats, is actually really good. Not to mention that drawing a card with Priest is very powerful. So let's go ahead and break down some of the other key components of this deck. The first thing that you're gonna look at that immediately stands out to me is the Inner Fire and Divine Spirit combination. This has been around since the beginning of Hearthstone. You play a minion with reasonable sized health, such as Ancient Watcher, or let's pick a more reasonable minion because this can't attack. Let's just play the Cabal Song Stealer, for example. If you get a 5 health minion out, you double its health, and then you count that for its attack. So it's a 10/10 for 3 mana. And it's a really powerful combination. And with Priest, the fact that you can keep healing your minions to higher and higher health up until the maximum cap, they're always going to be fearing of an Inner Fire just hitting them for 10. So even if it's, a 2/8 minion or, whatever combination of cards that you can get, they're always going to be threatened that they might have this huge burst come out of nowhere, which is what makes it really fun. You hold all the cards and they're the ones sweating. A lot of silence targets are not only just on your minions, because you do have the ability to silence your own Ancient Watcher and silence your own Humongous Razor Leaf, but you also can use silence on your opponent's minions. Some things that come to mind are the Death Rattles in Hunter. There's so many annoying Death Rattle summon X minions in Hunter that silencing them feels really good and gratifying while they emote you in Rage. One of the things I love about this deck is the fact that there's so many cool ways to play it. You can play it very tempo-oriented by playing Northshire Cleric on 1, Ancient Watcher on 2, Cabal Talon Priest on 3. Well, you probably want to silence it beforehand so that way your Ancient Watcher can attack. Or you can play the Humongous Razor Leaf, Defender of Argus, play very defensive. You can face a Shambler to put out the big minion as well. There's so many cool ways you can combo with this deck. And you can also even play Control Style, Wild Pyromancer, and Northshire Cleric. Everyone knows what this 3-mana combination can do. Wild Pyromancer, Northshire Cleric, silence, Circle of Healing, draw 3-4 cards depending on what ends up happening, and then refill your hand for more combos. Really cool stuff. Speaking of combos, one of my favorite cards of the entire expansion, especially for Priest, is Lyra, the Sun Shard. Whenever you cast a spell, add a random Priest spell to your hand. That's right, any Priest spell. Let's go ahead and type spell into the collection. You can get any of these. You can get the Silence, you can get the Circle of Healing, you can get Binding Heal. These are all really cheap cards to chain Lyra, because you can use Lyra, silence a minion, get another silence that minion, or you can get Lyra, Circle of Healing, get another Circle of Healing, etc. You can also get Pint-Sized Potion, Potion of Madness. These are all very useful cards, or cheap. They can combo. The thing about it is, too, that there's also some scenarios where you really want things like Greater Healing Potion or a Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Death. These are really good removal tools for Priest that they have, and don't underestimate it. While it looks like Shadow Word Horror and Mind Games might be relatively useless, there are a handful of spells that can be really powerful, too. Not to mention Free from Amber and Mind Control. Important to note that you can't actually get Awaken the Masters as a card from any random spell generation in Hearthstone. Well, you can't get any quest in general. Primarily because that would, 1, be really useless in a lot of situations because you don't build your deck, and 2, because, it's a little bit more balanced that way as a card. Otherwise, quests would just be really easy to attain through Kabbalist Tomes and Lyra. Shadow Visions is one of the most important cards in this deck, primarily because Priest has so many good tools, but a lot of times they're stuck in a situation where they have the wrong tool for the situation. We've all been there where we had a Shadow Word Pain and there's a 5 attack minion and you're thinking, oh man, if only I had my Shadow Word Death. Or vice versa. Your opponent has a 3 attack minion, you have Shadow Word Death and is useless for a long time. So having Shadow Visions be able to discover a copy, which by the way doesn't even waste that card in your deck. So you could have, 4 silences hypothetically in your deck by having Shadow Visions. You also have the choice between picking the right cards at the right time. Extremely powerful card. Don't sleep on it at all and think that it's a waste. Another really important thing to consider is that most decks and classes can most likely remove 1 big minion, but with cards like Faceless Shambler, you double it. So if you do Divine Spirit Inner Fire, you have 4 more mana, squeeze in that Faceless Shambler and save it for a 7-turn combination when your opponent has to now deal with 2 10-10s instead of just 1. One of the most important things about a combo-oriented deck is card draw, and Acolyte of Pain, one of the most useful cards, especially in Priest. Usually Acolyte of Pain can draw at most 3 cards, but with Priest Hero Power, you can extend its life range to draw even more. Don't get carried away with too much card draw though. I've been in situations where I drew too much for Northshire Cleric and Acolyte of Pain. As the saying goes, don't go full Northshire Cleric, and I guess don't go full Acolyte of Pain. So what the deck is primarily trying to do is to get on board very fast and utilize the Priest Hero Power as well as some of these really powerful combinations to stick onto the board. The Priest Hero Power is probably the strongest hero power in the late stages of the game, but even the mid stages where you're picking up really good trades with the Ancient Watcher and the Humongous Raise Relief, your opponent's not gonna be able to come back at all because you're usually in most other matchups, you can chip it over time. Can't really do that with Priest, especially if you're able to squeeze in a surprise circle of healing after you've done all these big trades. Another big strength of this deck is the fact that it has so much surprise factor. You can't really account for all the possibilities of what your opponent can do because Shadow Vision throws a big wrench into things, and also because there's so many cheap spells, and Lyra also throws a big curveball to your opponents. So there's so much surprise factor both for you playing and your opponent that it always keeps you on your toes, and I love that. All of a sudden, a relatively innocuous 4/8 minion can hit you for 16 damage if you're not careful. Some of the weaknesses of this deck that you have to be mindful are is the fact that there's a lot of awkward scenarios that end up happening. You sometimes need to silence your own Northshire Cleric in order to clear and keep everything alive, or maybe you have to do some weird shenanigans with Purify and silence a minion with your own taunt and remove the taunt ability in order to start punishing your opponent. Be very open-minded with your cards. You don't always have the optimal combos lined up. You're not gonna always have Divine Spirit and then Inner Fire. Sometimes to stop your opponent from killing you or getting good trades, you Inner Fire their minion and put it at 3 attack or lower in order for you to get the right trade, draw cards, and win back the board. Versatility is the name of the game with this deck, so keep an open mind and be very creative. Mulligans for this deck are actually very complex and matchup dependent, but if we can pick a few cards that we generally want to keep, Northshire Cleric, never really a bad keep. No one's gonna blame you for it. Tunnel Trog and Totem Golem have been rotated out of standard, so Northshire Cleric is only really weak to a Fiery War Axe or a 3/2 minion. And even then, you still have ways that you can punish them for it with a coin Cabal Talon Priest. These are a very good bread and butter combination that you can always keep for Priest early on. Another card that I would always consider keeping is Wild Pyromancer against aggressive decks. Especially against pirates or even that fast quest rogue that many people are playing, the ability to kill off your opponent's 1/1s or 2/1s is extremely crucial. And Priest has so many ways you can combo it with Wild Pyromancer. You have this plus Power Word Shield, you have this plus Shadow Word Pain, you have this plus Silence. And don't forget to heal up that Pyromancer before playing that spell if you want to keep it alive. Ancient Watcher, another crucial card for keeping if you have Silence already in the hand. Not only just Silence, but Purify. And don't underestimate the value of drawing a card. So playing Ancient Watcher on a turn 1 with the coin and then purifying it can be really powerful. Or just playing Ancient Watcher on 2, purifying and then being able to attack for some damage is also really powerful. Ancient Watcher is a really powerful card if you use it really early and get the silence off. While it might seem like situational and you don't really have the opportunity to activate it all the time, even just having Ancient Watcher on board is very threatening. Some players might even straight up kill it because they know what's coming. They see Ancient Watcher on board, they know Purify is happening, and if they're so scared of it that they might trade into it for you. Don't be afraid to just drop Ancient Watcher on turn 1 with the coin and then Purify it, and just watch your opponent tremble with fear. I don't know. I couldn't think of a Purify pun. Some important synergies and combos to remember is the fact that Divine Spirit and Faceless Shambler is sometimes good enough to secure you a really big board. If you only have an Ancient Watcher on the board and it's a 4/5 silence minion, if you just play the Divine Spirit and the Faceless Shambler, that's still 2 4/10 minions that you'll have, because the Ancient Watcher will become a 4/10 and the Faceless Shambler will copy its stat line. You don't need to get Inner Fire in order to kill your opponent, but it is really cool. It's the one that has the most sex appeal. Northshire Cleric and Circle of Healing is also a very important combination, because whenever a minion's heal, you draw a card, but sometimes you have this and Wild Pyromancer to draw 4 or 5 cards, refill your hand. And yes, it might keep your opponent's minions alive, but drawing cards gives you the ability to really stack the field against your opponent over many turns. They usually can only be playing a few cards and they run out, and then you're able to really outvalue them long term. Whatever you do, keep in mind that things like Cabal's Songstealer has a Battlecry silence a minion, so you have to silence something unless there's no minions besides itself. So say the only minion on the field is Faceless Shambler. Please do not, whatever you do, silence your Faceless Shambler, because then it becomes a 1/1 without taunt. It just becomes the worst minion that you can possibly have in Hearthstone outside of killing itself. So by all means, do not Purify or Cabal Songstealer the Faceless Shambler. It is anti-combo. One of the best facets about this deck is that it's only 4,000 dust, and it can be even made cheaper. So if you don't have Lyra the Sunshard, you can replace her with some other just solid mid-sized minions that either add to your deck synergy, such as a second Cabal Songstealer, or you can even add Priest of the Feast. This card is, really good against aggressive decks. You just play it out as a 3/6. If you do a Divine Spirit, it's a 3/12, and your opponent won't ever remove that. And the fact that you keep restoring health every time you play some of these cheaper spells like Inner Fire, Silence, Circle of Healing is very valuable to keeping you alive. In fact, if you're finding yourself constantly matching up against aggressive decks, this might be a specific tech card that you're going to look at in order to help your ladder run.
Well played.
Hey Junior Explorers, hope you guys enjoyed that video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out some of the other content. We've got lots of other Hearthstone stuff going on here on the Yahoo channel. Maybe it'll even help you survive.